Hello everyone and happy Halloween! If you're going trick-or-treating, you might not want to listen to this story. And if you're still here,
I warned you.
why did I just scare myself? So this happened on Halloween night of 2004. So the guy telling us the story saying how excited he was because he was 14 years old and his parents finally let him go trick-or-treating alone with his friends. He said that they were all excited because they were gonna do the craziest things they could never do years before. He said of course they started off by going to visit some girls from school. But then they went and got revenge on this guy who took their football when it landed in his yard and never gave it back. So they egged his house. I think that's fair. After that, they went and scared a whole bunch of little kids. Obviously, it was all in good fun though. They didn't say that they were like trying to make them cry. Like the kids were excited that they were getting scared too. He said that eventually it got a little late and they all were talking about maybe going home because they didn't see any kids in the streets anymore. He said that almost like if it was a scary movie, all of a sudden the sky got really dark and they started hearing thunder and they were like, okay, it's time to go home. He said that as they were walking, one of the friends in that group kind of stayed behind and eventually asked them to stop. I guess the reason why he was staying behind was because as they were walking, he was looking behind them at all times. So he stopped the kids and said, do you see that? They all turn around and they're like, see what? And he's like, look, right between the cars. They were all trying to look and they were like, see what? There's nothing there. And he was like, wait, just wait, don't move. You're gonna see it. At this point, they were like, what is going on? So they all start walking back to where that kid was at behind them. And they all were focusing in that spot that he was telling them to focus on. He said out of nowhere, in between the cars, walked a little kid. He said that they can see that he was dressed as a ghost because he had a sheet over him like this. He said that he could tell that the kid was really skinny, but he was very tall and that he looked like maybe he was in elementary school. He said it didn't seem like he was in their grade just by the shape of his body. So because that kid seemed so small and he was walking alone, one of the kids in that friend group said, maybe we should ask him if he wants us to walk him home. Especially because it seemed like it was about to start raining, there was thunder, they didn't feel comfortable leaving that kid alone in the streets. He said that before any of them could tell his friend, yeah, maybe we should walk him home, or no, let's not walk him home, the friend just screamed at the little boy, hey, do you want to walk with us? He said that once his friend said that, they all looked over at the boy and they could tell that he was stopped in his tracks, that he looked over at them and only nodded yes through the sheet. I'm already scared. So after that, the kid started walking down the sidewalk, almost walking towards them, but then he went in between two cars and they couldn't see him again. The guy said that when they didn't see him come back out from in between those cars, they then started walking towards where he was, but they started feeling very eerie, like something was not right. They eventually got to where he had hidden in between those cars, but the kid wasn't there anymore. He said that they all then started questioning themselves, like, did we really see the kid, or was it just because it's Halloween and we were a little bit scared? Like, they were all questioning whether the kid had maybe gone there or not. One of their friends was like, well, I mean, maybe we could have been imagining that, but how is it possible for all of us to imagine that kid? So I don't think it was a trick of the mind. He was like, there's no way that we all imagined a little boy in a Halloween costume. He said that at that point, they just decided to go ahead and start walking home because they never saw that kid again. But on the way home, he said that something told him to look back. He said that at a distance, the little kid was behind them. And at this point, he grabbed his friend's shoulder and turned him around to look because he just wanted to make sure he wasn't seeing things. He said that when he did that, the rest of his friend group turned around too because they were like, what are you guys looking at? And they all ran to where they were to look at what they were seeing. He said that when the rest of the friend group turned around to look, they were all like running and almost laughing because they thought it was fun that this weird little kid was following them, and it was just like the perfect ending to their best Halloween day ever. However, that is not how he felt. He said that after that, the kids then started running the opposite way away from that little kid, and that him and a friend named Hector stayed behind. He said that they stayed behind because they were the chubbiest out of the group, and honestly, they would look back and they didn't see the kid anymore. He said that eventually him and Hector stopped running because they were so tired and that they started laughing because of how scared they were. So now they started walking because they were trying to catch their breath. He said that because of of how foggy and rainy it was, they couldn't even see their friends ahead of them anymore, so they didn't think it'd be worth running again and trying to find them. He said that they both decided that they should probably go home, but then they fast realized that that would mean that they would have to separate themselves. He said that him and Hector decided to walk together to the main street, and once they got there, they would go their own separate ways back to their homes. He said that as soon as they started walking, they then started to hear steps behind them from afar, and when they looked, it was that same little kid dressed as a ghost. He said that at this point they were walking through the middle of the street, but when they saw him on the sidewalk, they decided to go to the sidewalk opposite from where the kid was. He said that he stopped walking and grabbed Hector by the chest so that he can stop too, but it was at that moment that he could feel Hector's heartbeat through his hand and realized that Hector was terrified. He said that when he stopped Hector, both him and Hector looked towards where the little boy was, and that the boy stopped too. And not just that, but the boy then started reaching for the sheet because he was gonna uncover himself so that they can see him. He said that when him and Hector saw the little kid about to pull the sheet over, that is when they got so scared they started running that they didn't even care that they knew that they were gonna be tired. They just started to run. I deadass have goosebumps. Why am I scared, bitch? I wouldn't even run. I'd be with them. I'd be the chubbiest out of the group and I would be stuck with the freaking ghost boy. He said that as he was running, he still looked back and he could see now that that boy dressed as a ghost was walking towards the sidewalk where they were at, and he was advancing on them. He said that they were so desperate that they were looking around and there was no person in sight and that there was no cars passing by for them to at least stop them and ask for help. He said that they would look back and the boy dressed as a ghost was still walking towards them. He said that his friend Hector told him, "Look dude, we cannot be scared of this weird ass kid. If he catches up to us and wants to walk with us, let's just walk with him till we get home." And he had no choice but to go along with what his friend Hector said. At this point, they were walking in the middle of the street still, and the ghost boy did catch up to them, but he was a good 3 to 5 feet from them, and all he did was walk at the same pace as them. They said they kind of relaxed a little bit after like the kid didn't do anything to them, so they were just walking home. He said that when they got to the main street, Hector got really lucky because there was a bus there, and he took the bus to go home, and at the same time, the kid saying the story said he got super lucky because there was a taxi there and he asked the taxi if he could take him home. He said that neither of their homes were far away, but they didn't want to take the risk and have that little kid follow them all the way home. He also said that he wanted to take that taxi because yeah, that kid looks like a tiny, child, but he could very well be an adult that's just like small and skinny. He said that when Hector got on the bus and he got on the taxi, the little boy had stayed like under a street light that wasn't working, so it was the dark. And as they drove away, he looked back and the kid was still there standing, like he wasn't walking, he wasn't moving anywhere. He said that it felt like he was just observing them and how they were getting away. He said that when he got home, he got on his computer and he wanted to message the rest of his friends and see if they made it home safe. His friends did respond telling him that they all got home safe, and at some point they were kind of worried for them, but at the same time they were like, oh, this is gonna be a fun prank for Halloween. Bitch, I would fuck all of them up. So fun guys. He said that at that point he was laughing because he was like, yeah, that was a good joke. And as he was laughing, he looked out the window of his house, and outside the window of his house was that boy dressed as a ghost. Such a fun prank, guys. He said that at that very moment, he got a notification on his computer that someone was trying to private chat him, and it was Hector. He said that till this day, he will never forget that private message. He said that Hector wrote, "I don't know how, but this kid followed me home and he is standing outside my house." How can this kid be standing outside both of their houses at the same time? He said at that moment he felt like puking, but then he was like, what if Hector's pranking me? Because there's no way this kid is outside of his house when he is outside of mine. He said that he got up and made sure that every door and window in his house was locked, and he even went to his big brother's room and asked if he could sleep in his room with him, which thankfully the brother said yes. He said that after that he never mentioned this little ghost boy ever again, and that was the last time that he ever went out for Halloween. So what do you guys think? Imagine if they had stopped and seen what the boy looked like underneath that sheet. Oh my gosh. I mean, my curiosity wished that they had stopped, but bitch, I wouldn't have stopped either. Obviously this is a translated story, so if you want to listen to it in Spanish, this is the video up here. Anyways, I hope you guys have fun trick-or-treating. Oh, bitch, imagine something happens to me. No!
I think I saw La Muerte when I was in Mexico, story time. So this happened around, I think I was around 12 or 13 years old. I don't really remember. But during that time, I went to go visit my family in Mexico during summer. And I remember me and my family were in the kitchen in a gathering with all my cousins, all my younger cousins, and my aunts and my uncles. The only people that they were not there was my aunt and my uncle. My uncle and my aunt were not there because my uncle was quitándose el espanto. Te curen, so que te quitan el espanto. So they told us to not be around there, and our houses are right next to each other. We're my uncle's house, so my grandma's house is right here, and my uncle's house is like right in front of it. So like if you go outside, the house is right there, but they told us to stay inside the kitchen of my grandma's house. So all of us were in there. We were just talking, and then my cousin told me, hey, can you go bring me some water? And the water is outside, it wasn't inside, by a tree. There's this tree that they cut off right outside the kitchen, and the tree, the only thing that was left from the tree was the tree trunk. So on the tree trunk, there was like this jug on top of the tree trunk where you could press a button and it would fill up the water for you, or you could just open the jug and just fill it up in that way. So there was two ways that you could get water from it. I went outside to go get water from my cousin, and as I was about to press the button to fill up the cup of water, because it wasn't a small cup, it was a pretty big cup that he gave me, and that's when I decided to look up, and where the kitchen is at, it's like in a hill kind of, and in the bottom there's like a bottom of rocks of a hill, and there's like another house down there, and that house is where they had some animals in there. It used to be a kitchen, but now they used it as like kind of like a barn to keep animals in there. So as when I looked in that direction, I saw La Muerte, but I believe I saw it was just kind of facing towards me. It had his like the stick that he usually holds, and like a blade, kind of something covering him up top of it. It's like kind of like a hood on top with the black all the way down, and he kind of looked kind of elevated, kind of. I really wasn't paying attention to it, and I just ignored it. I just looked down and just kept doing what I was doing. What I should have done, I should have just opened a jug and just scoop it in and just left. But for some reason, I was kind of like in a trance that I wanted to just, keep pressing the button. And for some reason, I wanted to look at it again, because I was like, did I just actually see that? And then I saw it again, and I looked up, and as the second time that I saw it, it was turning around, and I was already turned around, heading to the bushes back in front of the old kitchen on the bottom where they keep the animals. It's completely forest in that part of the area, so that's where I saw him disappear. Like, I saw his back just like disappearing through the forest and like disappeared through the bushes. And I finished filling up the cup, and I went back inside, and I didn't tell anyone until later on. And I told my cousin and my aunts, like, oh, I think I saw this. And then they told me, are you scared? And I was like, no, I didn't get scared, I just didn't pay attention to it. I just like filled up the water, and like I don't know if I actually saw it, but I was kind of like in a shock, I guess I can say. That I wasn't scared, but I was just in shock that I couldn't believe that what I saw. And then I went inside, and yeah, I just came inside like normally. I wasn't scared or anything. And I told my cousins, I told my aunt, and my aunts, if you were scared? I said, no, I'm not scared or anything, because they told me if you're scared, we could tell those like que te quitan el espanto, since they're here right now. And I said, no, I'm fine, like I'm not scared or anything. And after that, nothing else happened. But that's the time that I encountered, and I think I saw La Muerte. But yeah.
Scary Halloween story. Halloween night, 1986. Benjamin is 15 and his little brother Cody is 3. Their mother is a single parent. She works night shift as a waitress at the diner across town. She gives them a kiss goodbye before she goes to work, and little Cody is dressed as a ghost. Cody's costume has been made from his old bedsheet, a bedsheet that has his name written on it. They kiss their mother goodbye and she goes to work. So Benjamin meets up with his best friend, next door neighbor Josh, and they take Cody trick-or-treating throughout the neighborhood. After an hour, they run up with some of their classmates. The teenagers sit around shooting the breeze and talking about girls. About 8 o'clock, Benjamin decides it's time to take Cody home. He turns around to grab his hand, but Cody's not there. Benjamin and Josh begin to panic. They knock door to door and nobody has seen Cody. They call the police department and Benjamin's mother. Now the sheriff deputy tells his mother, "Don't worry, we'll find him. This happens all the time. He's 3. He's probably fallen asleep on somebody's porch." 3 days later, the sheriff's department receives a phone call. 2 hikers have found the lifeless body of a little boy in the woods, about 42 miles away. Police confirm it is Cody. Benjamin's family is distraught and he blames himself. Years would go by. Benjamin's now in his early 20s. He ends up marrying Josh's sister, Kristen. Benjamin, Josh, and Kristen all graduate college. One day, Kristen's father goes out of town. He asks Benjamin and Kristen to house sit for him. Now while they're in the house, Kristen decides to go through some old family photo albums, so they go down into the basement. While they're down there, they find some old boxes. These boxes are full of memories from Kristen and Josh's childhood. When Kristen sees a box that says, "Dad's personal belongings do not open," being a nosy daughter, she opens it. She pulls out some kids' shoes, a couple of watches, and then a dirty bed sheet that has 3 holes cut out of it. When Benjamin looks over, he says, "Whoa, where did you get that?" She says, "It was in my dad's box." Benjamin immediately recognizes this sheet as Cody's Halloween costume from the night he went missing. Benjamin absolutely snaps. "How did your father get this?" Kristen says, "I swear I don't know." They call Josh from upstairs. He doesn't know where it came from either. Now he knows the only person that would have this sheet would be the person that took Cody. So they call the police. When they get done searching the property, they find the remains of 3 other missing children and the belongings of several other missing children, ranging all throughout the 80s. Benjamin's father-in-law confessed during the police interrogation. Halloween night, he seen Cody standing by himself. He had managed to quietly lure Cody away. He put him in the car and drove. After his attack, he left Cody out in the woods. This man is the one who formed the search party to look for Cody. When he knew exactly where he was, he paid for over half the funeral expenses. He helped Benjamin buy his first car. He was their next door neighbor, their friend, like their family. They thought they could trust him, and he was the devil living next door. He was charged and received life in prison.